I'm Chloe Henderson, 34 years old. I live in Seattle, Washington, a place where the drizzle can make you forget it's technically spring. If anyone ever scrolled through my family's social media, they'd probably think we were the picture-perfect American household. A strict ex-military dad, a retired nurse mom, and 3 daughters always dressed in matching holiday outfits. But pictures never tell the whole story. I'm the middle child. It's a spot no one chooses, and I'm not sure anyone ever truly saw me. Except for my mom, back when she was still herself. I remember my 9th birthday. My older sister Hannah had just won first place in the regional math competition, and they threw her a party with a live band and confetti cannons. I got a small cake, hurriedly set on the kitchen counter, with 2 uneven candles. Mom leaned down and whispered, "Chloe, I'm sorry. I've been working too many night shifts this week, but you know I love you, right?" I nodded and tried to smile. She was always the one patching the cracks in my heart with little warm scraps. Dad was always busy fixing the car or reading the paper, and Hannah? She was busy being celebrated like a genius. Then came Emma, the youngest. 4 years behind me, big eyes, dimples, and a face everyone wanted to pinch and adore. From the time she could barely walk, people called her the little angel. And me? I was Chloe, the sister who got cut out of the Christmas photo when I was 12 because there wasn't enough room in the frame. "It's just the camera angle," Mom explained, her voice barely audible. But I saw. That picture hung in the living room for years, without me in it, and no one ever noticed, or if they did, no one mentioned it. I was never the pride of the family. Hannah excelled at everything. Honor student, club president, went to Washington State University just under an hour from home. Emma was sweet, delicate, always needed protecting. And me? Calm, independent, and, as Dad put it, no trouble, but nothing worth bragging about either. When I was 13, I won 3rd place in the school-wide science fair. I had spent 3 weeks building a solar power plant model that made my hands shake as I explained it to the judges. When they called my name, I almost didn't believe it. At home, I handed Dad the certificate with excitement. He glanced at it, gave a small nod, and said, "3rd place isn't bad, but Hannah got 1st that year." I turned away. But as I climbed the stairs, Mom called me back. "Let me see that certificate." I hesitated. "Why?" "To frame it, and hang it next to Hannah's, if your dad allows it. If not, I'll keep it somewhere I can see it every day." She meant it. 3 months later, helping her make the bed, I found it simple, wooden frame tucked inside her nightstand drawer. The certificate was a little creased from being stuffed between pill journals, but still intact. "You did great, Chloe," she said, catching my eyes. "You don't have to be first to be brilliant. You gave it your all, and I saw that." That moment, plain and quiet, meant more than all the medals in Hannah's room. But it didn't last. After high school, I got a full scholarship to a university in Colorado. Far from home. Very far. "Ugh, why so far?" my dad asked, voice sharp like a knife. "We don't have colleges here?" I didn't answer. I just needed to be myself somewhere I wasn't called the one in the middle. I needed room to breathe. Mom saw me off at the airport that morning. She packed me egg salad sandwiches and a pouch with hair clips, a notebook, and a folded note. "You are my quiet light. Don't let anyone dim it." I read that note every night during my freshman year. But the distance, though necessary, pulled me away from her more than I expected. Hannah stayed close, working as an accountant at a local firm, dropping by for dinners. Emma was still in high school, always riding shotgun in Mom's world. Whenever I called, Mom picked up, but her voice wasn't as warm. "Are you eating enough? Anything new at school?" The questions grew fewer, then turned into long pauses. "You called. I thought it was Hannah." My heart dropped the moment I heard that. That's when I began fading from her sight. Not because she forgot, but because someone else was standing too close, casting my shadow away. Hannah remained the anchor. Emma still needed care. And me? I was the daughter who chose to leave, and by doing so, seemed to have erased myself from a family that never had space for 3 daughters anyway. But I never forgot Mom. Never forgot the pride in her eyes when she tucked that certificate into her drawer. Never forgot the way she held my hand at the airport, whispering, "Don't forget I love you, wherever you go." I hadn't forgotten, but I'd started to wonder, did she remember? At 25, I moved to San Francisco with 1 suitcase, a short-term lease in the Mission District, and a job offer from Helix Tech, a growing startup in artificial intelligence. Back then, my dad called me the one who doesn't know when to stop. He said that after I turned down a job offer as an accountant at the law office, where Hannah was head of finance. A solid job close to home, stable income, surrounded by family, and you pass it up? He shook his head. Chasing some illusion in the middle of nowhere? I didn't respond. It wasn't the job I avoided. It was the feeling of always being boxed into the same identity at home. The name Chloe had long meant the quiet one, the rule follower, the invisible thread holding things together, but never the centerpiece. 8 years later, I'm Helix Tech's Director of Operations Strategy, managing over 100 people, leading expansion into Singapore, Germany, and soon, Australia. I've spoken at international conferences in Amsterdam, made the cover of a tech magazine with the headline, "The Woman Redefining Global Data Control." I mailed the magazine home. A few days later, Mom called. "Your sister said she didn't understand a word of it, but I looked at your photo, and I felt proud. That was all." Dad didn't call, but he emailed, "Don't forget to get married before it's too late." Hannah? We ran into each other at a family wedding. "Congrats on the promotion, I heard," she said, swirling her wine. "But a life that's all work, it's pretty empty." I glanced at her. Pastel dress, wedding ring sparkling, mouth sipping wine like she was performing a role she'd rehearsed 1,000 times. "I'm fine," I said, keeping it short. "Fine how? Fine being alone on the 23rd floor with your laptop glowing till 2 a.m.? I smiled. "You don't have to understand." "Well, Emma thinks you don't care about family anymore. Mom keeps saying Chloe's too busy." "How busy do you have to be to not call and wish Mom a happy birthday?" I said nothing. I had sent her a massage chair with a handwritten note, delivered on the day, but a chair doesn't speak, and a card is just paper. When I was little, Mom once told me, people remember what happens over and over, not just what happens once. I never repeated. Just one chair, one missed call, one message unread. Enough for them to write a new definition of me in their minds. A successful sister. Cold, shiny in magazines, but silent on family holidays. I had tried to explain. I called every Sunday for the first 3 months of the year. Each call barely lasted 7 minutes. "Have you eaten?" "Yes," Dad chimed in. "So, have you met anyone yet?" I gave a non-committal smile. Emma, who's studying education in Portland, added lazily through the muffled speaker. "Chloe, I saw your picture on LinkedIn. You must be super busy." I couldn't tell what hurt more, the indifference or the assumptions. Maybe it was the mix of both. Last year, during a small family gathering at Hannah's place, I dropped by because my company had a project in Palo Alto. I thought I'd stop in for a few hours, make conversation to be polite, then leave. Emma opened the door, stunned. "You actually came? I thought you'd just send a gift, like always." Hannah laid out roast chicken and Italian salad, introducing each dish like she was on a cooking show. "Chloe probably doesn't eat red meat, right? City folks are all about food restrictions now." I stayed quiet and picked up some greens. After dinner, while everyone left the table, Dad stayed, gently spinning his wine glass, voice even. "Your mom's been sad. Every time something important happens, you show up as a package, not in person. Don't you think that's unfair?" I looked up at the ceiling light and answered softly. I've never been absent. No one just ever saw me there. He chuckled. Not a light chuckle, but one tinged with contempt. There it is. That tone. Like you're giving some kind of corporate speech. All those degrees and job titles, did they ever teach you how to be a daughter, Chloe? That night, I left early. Outside, a light drizzle blurred the windshield. I didn't turn on the music. I didn't call anyone. In the world I built, where every step is planned with spreadsheets, every campaign monitored by live analytics, there is no formula for being the kind of daughter my parents could proudly claim. One with a husband, children, living nearby, calling every weekend, sitting beside mom during local church festivals. I'm not good at that. I only know how to manage systems, lead teams, close million-dollar deals. But when it comes to pleasing a father who views daughters through the lens of settle down, get married, stay stable, I've failed completely. Still, one thing I've never changed, I've never wanted to be anyone else but myself. Even if that version of me makes my family see me as a shadow, accomplished but emotionless. I wonder, did any of them ever truly want to understand me? Or did they just want me to return to a version of myself they were comfortable with? Predictable, manageable, lovable. I'm not sure. All I know is, they've been telling my story in their own way for years. Maybe it's time I tell it from the beginning, in mine. The last call I had with Mom lasted less than 3 minutes. I heard you're going to Singapore. I nodded, knowing she couldn't see me. Yeah, I'm flying out Monday. Just for a few days. Then I'll be back. Hannah said you just got a new project. So you're probably swamped. I slowly curled my fingers around the edge of the sofa. Mom, I always try to call you on weekends. No matter how busy I am. It's okay. I understand. You've got more important things to worry about. She hung up gently, but it tore something open inside me. A few days later, I saw a picture on Hannah's Facebook. Everyone gathered for Easter dinner. Mom was wearing the sweater I sent her last year, smiling faintly next to Dad. Emma was holding a dessert tray. Hannah stood in the center, one hand on Mom's shoulder like a clear signal of who truly belonged. I wasn't mentioned. No tag, no message asking why I wasn't there. Things became even clearer that Thanksgiving. I flew home and gave a week's notice. Mom said she'd save me a piece of the turkey I liked. I brought wine, dessert, and a newly published book with a personal dedication to her. Dinner was eerily quiet, like someone had turned down the volume on the whole house. Dad asked one question. Still no one? Emma stayed glued to her phone. Mom avoided my eyes. Then Hannah spoke up. Chloe, I mean this sincerely, not as blame. But Mom was really upset. She barely spoke for days after you canceled Christmas last year. I looked at Mom, but she stayed silent. I had an urgent project, and I messaged everyone in the family group. Well, you have your group, your world, Hannah cut in, eyes fixed on her wine. Mom only has the people here. The air turned thick, like resin hardening mid-air. I set my fork down. I've always called. I've sent gifts, wired money on every holiday. I haven't disappeared. Sending things isn't the same as being there, she said softly. But every word hit like a nail, hammered into the wood table. Mom stayed quiet, only clearing her throat gently. Let's not, it's Thanksgiving. Dinner ended early. I cleaned up in silence. No one offered to help. As I reached the door, I turned back and tried to smile at Mom. Keep warm, okay? Let me know if you need anything. She nodded. Didn't speak. I didn't think that night would be the last time I'd truly be considered part of that house. After Thanksgiving, Mom's messages grew sparse. Some days I'd texted 3 times in a row with no reply. Hannah went completely silent. Emma sent cryptic emojis, the kind young people use when they don't want to talk. Then one weekend afternoon, I got an email from one of Mom's old friends, Nancy, asking why I hadn't shown up for Mom's 65th birthday party. I froze. I hadn't even known there was a party. I called Mom immediately. After 3 rings, she picked up. Chloe, what's going on? I just heard from Nancy about your birthday party. Why didn't I get any kind of invite? Silence. I thought Hannah told you. You've been busy. Your sister didn't want to bother you. My chest felt like someone shoved ice into it. I hung up and scrolled through old texts with Hannah. Eventually, I found it. A single line from 2 months earlier. Nancy's organizing something for Mom. I figured you'd be too busy. Don't worry, I've got it covered. I read it over and over. No question, no invite, just a decision made on my behalf. For the first time in years, I got angry. I typed, "Did you even ask me before assuming I wouldn't come? Why do you keep deciding everything about Mom on my behalf?" Hannah gave only one response. "Chloe, stop making everything about you. No one has time to keep stroking your ego." I set the phone down, my hands trembling. When did living far from home become an act of betrayal? When did love start needing proof? Through nightly appearances in the same kitchen? Maybe my sister had been quietly jealous for years. When I got a full scholarship and she had to settle for a local college? When I moved abroad and she stayed behind to care for Mom after knee surgery? When people started calling me chief executive while she remained head accountant in a small town? Maybe she had slowly reshaped how Mom saw me, turning the daughter with ambition into someone cold and uncaring. I had no hard proof, but after all the unanswered calls, the guilt-tripping, the conveniently hidden events, I knew one thing for sure. Someone else had been telling my story in a voice that wasn't mine. And if I didn't speak up, they'd finish the final chapter without me, without the truth. I didn't want halfway acceptance anymore. I wanted clarity. I needed to know exactly where I stood. In Mom's eyes, in my family's heart, and in my sister's mind. I booked a flight with one goal: to reclaim the narrative I'd let others write for too long. I found out about Mom's 60th birthday party through a tagged Facebook post from Aunt Sylvia. It popped up while I was having dinner alone in my 25th floor apartment overlooking the San Francisco Bay. The event banner appeared in golden script, celebrating 60 years of Linda Henderson, the most wonderful mother. Scrolling down, I saw a long guest list. Relatives from Oregon, Mom's side of the family in Santa Rosa, old classmates from New Mexico. My name wasn't on it, not under invited, not under going. I sat there, frozen, nothing but the hum of the dishwasher and the soft kitchen light reflecting off my phone. I hit call. Mom's voice was calm, unhurried. "Chloe, honey, what's going on? I just saw the post about your birthday party. Why wasn't I invited?" There was a pause. Then her voice dropped slightly. "I thought Hannah told you. Maybe." There was a misunderstanding. "Of course you're welcome. I always want you home." I swallowed the urge to ask, if she always wanted me home, why wasn't I on the list? I didn't ask. I just quietly booked a business class seat from SFO to Portland that night. In 36 hours, I would walk into a party the whole family had decided I didn't belong to. Before the flight, I stopped by a tiny jewelry shop in the Castro district. The elderly owner, her hands thin and veiny, helped me choose a gold-set emerald brooch, just like the one Mom once admired at a flea market when I was in high school. I also bought a luxury spa package at a lakeside resort in Bend, somewhere Mom had always wanted to go but never had the chance. It came to over $3,000. Not for the price, but because each item was a memory I'd held onto while everyone else forgot I still existed. On the morning of the party, I wore a sapphire silk dress. Simple, refined, light makeup, soft waves in my hair. I looked into the mirror. "Happy birthday, Mom," I whispered. I came home. The venue was a historic estate along the Columbia River. White tents on the lawn, a buffet spread under lace cloths, a live jazz trio. As I approached with my silver-wrapped gift, I caught a familiar glance. Mr. Raymond, Dad's old colleague. "Chloe? Good heavens, I can't believe it's you." "Hi there. I said politely. Your mom will be thrilled. She keeps saying, I wonder if my San Francisco girl will make it. I nodded. Did she really hope I'd come? Or was that just a cover for the absence she helped arrange? There was a side gate into the main hall. Before I could step through, a gravelly voice sounded behind me. Chloe. I turned. My father stood there in a gray suit, expression carved from stone. I thought you weren't invited, he said flatly. Mom said I should come. Your name's not on the list. This is a party for people who were truly present. I met his eyes. I'm her daughter. He didn't blink. You chose your career, chose another city, chose not to be here for dinners, holidays. That doesn't erase me from this family, I said, each word landing hard. He didn't reply. Heels clucked on stone. Hannah emerged. Blush, pink dress, bold red lips, eyes sharp like glass. Wow, you actually came? You knew I wasn't invited, Dad added. I spoke to Mom, I said firmly. She said I should be here. She was just surprised. You know, Mom, she doesn't know how to say no directly. Hannah shrugged. I clenched the gift box in my hand. I didn't come to cause drama. I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday. Then let us pass along the message. Hannah smiled faintly. I paused, then extended the box. This is for her. It's all I came to give. Neither of them took it. I turned, placed the box on a nearby table, and walked away. Eyes on me, whispers flitting through the air like static. No tears, no bowed head. When I reached the rental car, my hands were shaking. I gripped the wheel, inhaled deeply, and pulled out my phone. I typed a message to Mom. I came, but they wouldn't let me in. I left your gift at the entrance. I hope you have a beautiful birthday. Sent. No reply. I started the engine, caught one last glimpse in the rearview mirror. No one followed. Not a single glance back. I used to think if I tried hard enough, I'd finally be accepted. But right then, with the engine humming and the trees casting patterned shadows across the road, I understood something more clearly than ever. Some walls aren't built from bricks and stone. They're made from the words people speak about you when you're not in the room. And today they chose to keep me out, not because I didn't matter, but because I mattered in a way they couldn't control. I had just placed my hand on the ignition button when a light tap on the window startled me. A tall man in a charcoal gray suit bent slightly, his face tense. His eyes landed on me as if he was carefully choosing his words to not scare me. I rolled the window down just enough for the cool evening air to sweep in. Chloe, he said gently, clearly. I'm Jesse. I stared. The name rang oddly familiar. Hannah's boyfriend, he added, a little awkward. We haven't met, but I work at Helix Tech. The air inside the car thickened. What did you say? Product development, Jesse said quickly. 10th floor. I transferred from the Portland branch to the San Francisco headquarters 7 months ago. I searched my memory. Weekly interdepartmental meetings, project approvals, group discussions. I must have skimmed past his personnel file. But the name, Jesse Wilkins, had never stuck. I couldn't think of a better way to say this, but after what happened tonight, I couldn't stay silent. Jesse's tone was uneasy. I was standing less than 30 feet from the gate. I heard everything. I tightened my grip on the wheel. What are you trying to say? Jesse took a deep breath. Last night, Hannah and your dad were talking in the backyard. They were considering the possibility that you might show up. He said he'd handle it cleanly if you did. My throat went dry. Did my mom know? Jesse shook his head. No. She asked a few times, said, I wonder if Chloe will come. Hannah told her you had declined the invitation, that your company was in a busy cycle and you couldn't make it. Lies, I whispered. Not just lies, Jesse said more quietly. I heard so many things Hannah told them about you. That you're cold, successful but selfish, only care about family when there's something to show off. That your mom once called you, and you hung up because you were in a meeting. I looked up and met his eyes. Do you believe that? He paused, then shook his head. No. Ever since I started at Helix Tech, I've seen the way you treat your team, how you stood up for the engineers during that unfair round of layoffs. You're nothing like how Hannah described. They leaned back in my seat, the anger slowly giving way to exhaustion. He's jealous of you, Jessie continued. I'm not saying this to defend her, but she's always comparing. That you got to fly high while she stayed behind patching up the family. I gave a short, joyless laugh. So she rewrote an entire version of me in our mom's mind, erased my name from the list, blocked my calls, turned everything into, Chloe doesn't need this family anymore. Jessie didn't deny it. Your mom didn't know you were turned away at the gate. No one told her. She thinks you're just busy. Hannah filtered everything. I remembered the one-sided messages, the unanswered calls, the way Mom used to ask, "Are you too busy to care about us?" Every word now cut like a blade, wielded not by a stranger but by someone I once trusted. What are you going to do? Jessie asked after a long silence. I turned to look at the estate behind us. Under the warm lights, silhouettes moved, soft jazz floated through the air. Somewhere in there, my mother was smiling at someone, unaware that her daughter had been blocked at the gate by her own husband and eldest child. I won't let them define me by my absence, I said. Do you want me to come with you? Jessie offered, surprised by his own words. I nodded, not to confront, just to tell the truth. We went back through the side entrance, the one by the kitchen. No one was guarding it. The servers were busy carrying dessert trays and wine glasses. Jessie opened the door first and I followed. The warmth hit us instantly. Laughter, murmurs, glasses clinking. The first eyes that landed on us were Hannah's. She froze, face paling. Jessie, she hissed, what are you doing? I can't pretend I didn't hear. He answered, calm but steady. I stepped forward, locking eyes with her, then turned toward the center of the room, where my mother sat beside a bouquet of white chrysanthemums wearing a lavender dress, a string of old pearls around her neck. She turned, saw me. In that moment, surprise on her face melted into tears. Chloe? I walked straight to her, ignoring everyone else. I came, but no one let me in. I was blocked at the gate. A wave of silence swept the room like a low tide. My mother looked between Hannah and me. You? What are you saying? My name wasn't on the list. Dad and Hannah said I wasn't part of the family anymore. I said, every word crisp. All eyes turned to my father and sister. I didn't. I called you so many times, sent gifts, wrote letters. I tried to stay connected, but everything got distorted. You didn't refuse to come? She asked softly. No. I booked the flight on Wednesday. I brought gifts, wore the dress you once said you loved. Just to be here for you. I pulled out the brooch from my coat pocket. It's like the one you pointed out to me when I was little. At that flea market in Santa Rosa. You said it got lost during the move. Her eyes welled up. She reached for the brooch, holding it like a piece of memory coming home. No one spoke, just her voice, fragile and shaking. You always remembered the smallest things. I gripped her hand gently. No more words were needed. That day, I didn't cause a scene. I didn't accuse anyone. I just stood there. Present. A living reminder that no one gets to erase me from what's rightfully mine, even if they've tried before. Jessie stepped onto the small wooden platform in the hall, where the band had just wrapped up their third jazz number. He took the mic from the MC while most people were still half distracted. Sorry to interrupt, Jessie said, his voice calm but clear. I just want to take a moment to introduce someone very special who's here tonight. The room quieted, all eyes turning toward the young man now standing in the spotlight. Hannah, standing at the bar, froze the moment she realized Jessie was holding my hand as we walked forward. This is Chloe Henderson, Jessie continued, his gaze fixed on my mother seated at the center table. youngest daughter of Mrs. Linda, and also an executive director at Helix Tech, someone I have the honor of working alongside. Whispers spread like smoke. I walked steadily, head neither bowed nor lifted too high. Through the crowd of familiar and unfamiliar faces, I found my mother rising from her chair, her silk scarf slipping off her shoulder, hands trembling. "Chloe?" she said faintly, as if unsure I was real. I stepped closer, placing my hand on the edge of her table. I came, even though no one would let me through the gate. All sound stopped. Spoons paused mid-air. Glasses hovered. "What?" my mother asked, turning toward my father who was now approaching, a mask of confusion tightening his face. I looked him straight in the eyes. "You told me I wasn't on a guest list, said this party was for people who were actually present in Mom's life." Jesse stood beside me, silent, but his eyes darted toward Hannah. A quiet confirmation. My mother covered her mouth. "No, that's not true. Your father said... He said you were too busy. Hannah told me you declined." I quietly opened my purse, pulled out my phone, and showed her my flight booking. "I flew in from San Francisco yesterday morning. Ticket was booked last week. Do you think I bought a first-class ticket, brought a gift, stood outside that gate just to ruin your party?" She looked at the screen, then back at me. Tears welled in her eyes. "I even brought the gift you said you loved when I was 16. The emerald hairpin, remember?" She nodded slowly, her lips moving without sound. I turned toward Hannah and Dad. "What?" Hannah gave a shaky, forced smile. "I just wanted to keep things peaceful. Mom doesn't need the stress of the past resurfacing. You pulled away from this family, Chloe. You chose that." "And I never pulled away," I said. "You rewrote who I was in Mom's eyes. You said I was selfish, cold, cut ties with everyone. When I called, you didn't mention it. When I sent gifts, you hid them. When I checked in, you told Mom not to think too much of it." My father stood, avoiding my gaze. He finally spoke, low but audible. "Your mother's fragile. You live your lofty life, then drop in and stir everything up. That's not love." "Lofty?" I scoffed. "Humorless. Working hard to live honestly is lofty? Calling home every week is fake? Then what do you call blocking your own daughter from her mother's birthday party?" By then, my mother had stepped closer, clutching my shoulder. "Chloe, I'm so sorry. I really didn't know. I thought... You didn't want to come?" "I've always wanted to come, but every time I tried, I was stopped by people who decided I didn't belong. Because I didn't fit their picture of what belonging looked like." Anna stepped forward, pale and shaking. "You don't get it. I'm here every day. I take Mom to her appointments. I organize everything. You just send something from afar and think, that's enough. You chose that. I never forced you to be the one to stay. I'm only asking one thing. Don't take my truth away from me." Silence wrapped around us. I turned to my mother. "I want you to hear it from me. Not through Hannah, not through Dad, from me. That I still love you. That I never abandoned this family. But I won't stay silent just to feel like I belong." My mother nodded, squeezing my hand. "I understand now. I promise. From now on, I'll ask you directly. No one else gets to decide how I love my daughter." To my right, my aunt whispered something to Uncle Gary. A distant relative began a slow clap. No one smiled. But the air had shifted. I gently squeezed my mother's hand. "I won't stay long, but I needed to show up so people know I didn't disappear. I was pushed aside." Jesse stepped back, letting me stand between my mother and Hannah. The space wasn't large, but it was deep enough to know, from today on, anyone crossing it would have to carry honesty with them. I didn't expect everyone in the room to understand the full story. But at least now it wasn't a tale told by only one voice. I had reclaimed mine, in front of them all, in front of my mother, in front of myself. It was my mother who asked to leave the banquet hall. She didn't raise her voice, just gently touched my elbow, then turned to Jessie with gratitude in her eyes. "Can you help me get your father and Hannah? We need a quiet room." Under the soft glow of lanterns lining the hallway to the second-floor library, no one spoke. Our footsteps echoed on the old wooden floor, hollow and even, like every emotion had been pressed down to its limits. The room she chose was a small study with glass doors facing the backyard, where the birthday party carried on as if no storm had just rolled through. Mom sat on a velvet-upholstered chair. I sat across from her. Jessie stood near the door. My father entered last, shoulders tense. Hannah followed silently, her face strained of color. I rested my hands on my lap to keep them from shaking. Mom was the first to speak. "Chloe, you said I didn't know what happened at the gate. Is that true?" I nodded. I was turned away. Not because of you, but because others decided I no longer belonged in this family portrait. Hannah spoke, her voice choked. "I didn't think you'd come." "You didn't think, or you didn't want to?" I asked. "I'm tired, Chloe," she said, eyes fixed on the floor. "Tired of always having to prove I'm good enough. Mom's always talking about you, your job, your interviews, the times your name showed up in the papers. You're not here, but you're always part of the conversation." I stayed silent. She went on. "And I'm here, doing everything, and it just feels expected. Like, if you didn't exist, maybe then I'd get to be loved fully. So you decided to turn me into the bad guy?" I asked. Not sharply, but I didn't let it slide. Hannah covered her face. "I don't know when it started. I just know I couldn't take it anymore. So I twisted things, even when I knew it was wrong." Dad stood nearby, hands clasped together, his face dry and tight. "My daughter," he said. "I used to think a woman who works late, who puts her career first, must not have room left for family." I turned to look at him without blinking. "But today," he continued, "seeing you stand in front of that whole room, not flinching, not blaming anyone, maybe I was wrong about you." I didn't feel relief, just an empty space. "I'm not asking for anyone's apology," I said. "I need us to stop pretending. Stop choosing who's good by some vague standard, then forcing everyone else into the side role." Mom looked at me, her voice barely a breeze. "Then what do you want? From now on, anything about your health, about family, I want to hear it from you, not through Hannah, not through Dad. If you're not well, I'll fly back, but no one gets to decide that for me." She nodded, tears falling without wiping them away. "I was wrong to let others speak for you." I turned to Hannah. "You don't have to keep acting like the perfect daughter, but I don't need to be your distorted mirror to make you feel loved." No one argued. Jessie quietly stepped out, leaving space for the four of us. Mom took my hand. "I want to make this right, Chloe. If you'll let me." I squeezed her hand. "Only if everything between us is real, not lines someone else wrote in their head." Dad stepped back, exhaling softly. "I don't know how to fix this, but I'll try." The study door closed behind us as we left. To anyone else, it probably looked like a family just going back for more dessert. But to me, each step we took that night pieced together something close to trust. When Mom went up to cut her birthday cake, I stood on her left. Hannah stood on her right. We both held the knife. When Mom blew out the candles, she turned to me and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up." I answered softly, "I didn't come back to be forgiven. I came back so no one could forget I once mattered." Just then, a flash went off from Aunt Sylvia's phone. She posted the picture later that night. In the frame, Mom was beaming, Hannah looked calm, and me, I stood tall, unhidden, no longer in anyone's shadow. no longer invisible, no longer mislabeled. Just Chloe, fully, right place, right time. But there's still work to do. Forgiveness doesn't come overnight. It takes time, patience, and a whole lot of conversations where both sides have to face what they once tried to bury. I don't know if my family will ever change completely, but that night, in the house by the river, one thing did shift. They could no longer speak about me without letting me speak too. Mom called one early morning in October while the window glass still held beads of mist. "Chloe," she said, her voice soft and tentative. "I was thinking, if your father's going to that conference in Spokane next week, maybe I could visit you in Boston?" I froze mid-sentence, halfway through an email. "I'd love that," I said, keeping my tone even. "I'll book your ticket." A week later, I waited at Logan Airport, holding a sign that read, "My mom likes black coffee and quiet bookstores." It was something she'd told me when I was 14 as we waited for a bus home from the local library. I never forgot. She walked out of baggage claim pulling a faded cream suitcase. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. There was no distance, just a short, tight hug that said everything she couldn't. I brought her back to my Back Bay apartment, where the hardwood floors echoed familiar steps, and the windows overlooked bikers gliding under gold-turning trees. She paused in front of a photo I had framed in the living room. "The Helix Tech team at our Asia branch opening. These are the people you lead?" she asked, disbelief threading her voice. "Yes. They're why I sometimes sleep on the office couch." I smiled. We walked through Boston Common, read by the lagoon and public garden, grabbed burgers from a small takeout spot I loved. Every stop was a glimpse into the life I'd built, one she'd never truly seen. On Tuesday night, I brought her to my office. The conference room was quiet, the lighting soft, the air carrying faint traces of stale coffee. As colleagues passed by, they shook her hand like they were trying to see some part of me in her eyes. "You're Chloe's mom?" one engineer asked kindly. "She's the best leader I've ever worked with." I didn't jump in. I let her hear it, see it, feel it. When we got home, she placed a hand on my shoulder. "Now I understand why you chose this path. You're not just working, you're guiding people." I didn't need praise, but that sentence gave me a kind of recognition I never even hoped for. A few weeks later, I got a call from the CEO's office. My interview for the North America VP role was moved up. During the meeting, when asked about leadership under pressure, I spoke about my family confrontation, not for sympathy, but to highlight my ability to stay true to my values, both personally and professionally. And 3 days later, the offer came through. I was appointed. Same building, double the scope and budget. I texted Mom before even telling my team, "You always said I did things my own way. Today, that way made me VP." She replied with a photo, the emerald hairpin I'd given her at the birthday party. The caption read, "You've always been my daughter. Don't let anyone rewrite that story." At the end of November, my family came to Boston for Thanksgiving. Mom brought her homemade pumpkin pie, Dad showed up early to help set up the extra table, and Hannah, still a little awkward, arrived with a bottle of red wine and the toast. "Here's to a calm evening." Dinner was held in the apartment I used to keep all to myself. That night, it opened wide enough for 8 people, 2 dining sets, and conversations no longer guarded by judgment. Midway through dinner, Hannah suddenly stood up. "Chloe," she said, hesitating, "I've been going to therapy. No one made me. I just want to understand why I used to see you as a shadow that needed erasing." She didn't call it an apology, but for me, the initiative was enough. "I used to think you hated me. Turns out you were just afraid you wouldn't be loved the same," I replied, without bitterness. I didn't expect us to go back to holding hands watching TV as kids. I just wanted to show up as an adult, respected for who I am, not the version others made up. Before I left, Mom pulled me out to the balcony, looking down at the square glowing with lights. "What would you think about us going to family therapy together?" I squeezed her hand. "If everyone's willing to be honest, then I'll sit down." A few months later, our first session took place at a counseling center near Mount Tabor Park. Each of us brought our own stories, but this time, no one was allowed to speak for anyone else. Hannah learned that silence didn't have to be scary. Dad learned to ask without wrapping his questions in judgment. Mom learned to choose her own news sources instead of letting others filter them for her. I didn't come to fix anyone. I came to protect what's true in me. At the end of that year, Helix Tech released its quarterly report showing growth that exceeded projections. In the board's commentary section, there was one line I'll never forget. "Ms. Henderson doesn't just deliver results, she exemplifies how to build lasting trust, even in the most fractured environments." I saved that document, not to brag, but to remind myself that sometimes boundaries don't push people apart. They keep us safe enough to finally draw close. Chloe Henderson was once labeled the distant daughter, excluded from her own mother's birthday party due to manipulation and misunderstanding within her family. But it was her courage to speak up, face the truth, and persist in defending her self-worth that helped mend those deep-rooted cracks. Today, Chloe is not only a respected and successful leader, but also a daughter, finally seen and valued for who she truly is. Healing began with clear boundaries and genuine love. What do you think of Chloe's journey? Have you ever felt misunderstood in your own family? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt and real-life family stories to come.